Part. Uh, yeah, and I've just put out the password in honor of where you are, as well as your, as John mentioned, your nationality. First password is Hungary. So we will talk about the second password as and when we are about to close the session. Before I introduce Leda, I just want to give a brief overview in terms of the topic itself. I did suggest it, and Leda agreed. One of the reasons I wanted to have that was originally this was the last webinar. It is a closing session. In many ways, it is a closing session of the week, International Coaching Week. But tomorrow we have one more session, which I thought would be very useful on appreciative coaching that Dr. Nina Verma would be taking at the same time. And those of you who are interested in that subject, please do attend. The reason I chose Leda and also I chose the topic is both the fact that Leda was a past chair of the ICF Global Board, and like John here and Subhash, we have interacted together with Leda when she was with us on a program along with Janet Harvey, who also was previous ICF Global Chair, and also Damien, who was on this webinar earlier. So there were three of them as MCCs, and there were others who were preparing to be MCCs. And a few of us from that batch are already MCCs as well at this point in time, thanks to the interaction. But more importantly, Leda, as the Global Chair, has an oversight of what's happening across the world in coaching. I just wanted to share something with you, Leda, as well. About a year and a half ago, I happened to share the platform as a speaker with this gentleman, David Peterson, who's a chief coach at Google. And he presented on the future of coaching with this very provocative title, Is Coaching Dead? On one occasion, I shared the platform with him. On another occasion, I was a participant. His premise and argument was that the way coaching is being practiced today is becoming more and more transactional. And I'll substantiate that very briefly in a minute. It looks as if it can be very easily be replaced by artificial intelligence, especially the kind of artificial intelligence that Google is using. And he gave a number of examples and very, very solidly evidenced. And he also went on to say that they had done a lot of experiments with autistic people, not just children, but older people as well. And they found that these autistic people responded far better to non-animate, as it were, robots with artificial intelligence than human beings. And I mean, tongue-in-cheek, he basically said, pretty much all of us are autistic to some extent or another. And I would presume that the same approach will work with us on coaching. Of course, a lot of people got extremely upset. And especially in Boston, where it was sponsored by Harvard, there was a lot of emotional kind of thing. How can you say that? And so on and so forth. But then I attended a couple of sessions with people in the EMCC conference in the year that followed. And EMCC conferences are usually, the main conferences are based on pretty much good research, which is earlier discussed in a previous research conference. And there were people who shared on what they call, one of them was called e-coaching, another one was called scenario coaching. And the e-coaching was simply a kind of an asynchronous coaching on a chat box. And the coach and the client are having a chat, not even a conversation. And there is some kind of artificial intelligence analytics algorithm, which as soon as the client puts in a question, throws up a number of options for the coach to ask questions on. And they were very proud of it. I said, I mean, how is this coaching? And they seem to think that I was from the dark ages, actually. Oh, this is the way that coaching is moving, and this is the way the future is. I was a bit disturbed by that. But in a sense, what David Peterson was talking about was, if people are going to do that, what is really the difference? Why do you need people as coaches, actually, emotional bodies, etc.? And the other was, and Subhash here actually was a guinea pig on my behalf on something called scenario coaching, whatever. Fortunately, I escaped that, and this was something that person said. It was a team of people from UK. They said it has been used by IBM. They had tremendous testimonials, pretty expensive stuff, and on a kind of a avatar platform. So you played around with the coach and the client, all kinds of stuff, and yes, it could probably from a Jungian psychological symbol kind of thing, it might make a difference. But there again, I mean, so they said they wanted to have a volunteer. Subhash volunteered before we actually ran a program, paid program for some people, and I was quite keen to do that if there was a response. And Subhash came back and said, "Look, I don't know. Basically, it sucks. I didn't get anything out of it," and they were pretty upset. But I said, "Look, that's the way it is." Anyhow, so when we have coaching going this way, and I'm also a little, though I support it in many ways, the PCC markers, which provide you pretty algorithmic understanding of what it should be, and it's almost like numerical rating, putting them in so much percentage of marks, etc., and ticking the box. Is David Peterson in some ways right? Can coaching be then done probably better by robots and artificial intelligence by human beings? Is that a way that coaching is moving? Or is it moving in a different direction in terms of spirituality, in terms of awareness, in terms of various other kinds of things? So that's sort of my opening statement to you, Leda. And you can take it whichever way that you want to. You don't have to necessarily go with what I said, ignore it if you wish. And also, I have some experiences about the Indian market space, the way that coaching is moving today. At a later point in time, I can share with that. But now, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Leda. I don't want to go through her entire name. It's a little difficult for me. I'll have to look at it and spell it out. But the thing is, John, Subhash, and I, and a couple of others we went through. She's a wonderful human being. She's one of the best examples of a master coach that I have come across. Warm, gentle, nurturing, and she offered me the pleasure of coaching her as if she needed the help, but for part of my MCC journey, and it was a journey for me working with her. I'm truly proud to present to you Leda, and as she said, she has this dream of coming to India, and at least on behalf of Coach Arya, let me promise you that we will make that happen. Thank you, Leda, all yours.
Thank you very much, Ram, for that very intriguing introduction into this session. And hello, everyone. Really warm hello from Hungary to India. And here is really hot, so partly I can imagine what life is in India. Yeah, you know, you started it in an intriguing way, and mentioning also that you coached me, Ram. And I think I would rather prefer to be coached by you than by artificial intelligence. I do believe, I do believe that human beings learn about themselves in interactions with other human beings. We learn about our beliefs, values, about our own personal and national culture when we meet other cultures, and often when we meet differences and not similarities. And I think on one hand, David Peterson is right. And, you know, he's much better in all these AI research than me. And I do believe that artificial intelligence will take over partly what coaches do, but I don't believe that it will happen entirely. And in one of his latest sessions, he started to speak not about artificial intelligence replacing human beings, but rather about collaborating with artificial intelligence. As I know from his presentation, Google and other companies are looking for actually enhancing the benefits and the sustainability or the impact of coaching by creating different platforms which would keep coachees on their journey of development. And I was just I was trying to remember the name of a gentleman, a neuroscientist who did a lot of research on humor and creativity, but unfortunately I can't recall and I can't find it immediately, but I will be pleased to send his name later to you. He actually analyzed, humor and what is the neuroscience of humor. And he came up with a few excellent insights. First of all, that humor is not for having fun, but actually the whole purpose of humor is to have an insight, to come out from a state of confusion and have this kind of cathartic moment. And then he goes on and talks about artificial intelligence having the ability to be creative with limitations. But he states that the thing which cannot be done so far by artificial intelligence is to deal with confusion. And we know from a lot of psychological and neuroscientific research that the necessary state for learning is confusion, because confusion and chaos creates a so-called cognitive disbalance in the mind. And during this cognitive disbalance, the mind actually is researching for new connections, is researching for making a new sense. And that is when we update our sense making. That is when we gain a new insight. And it is necessary for development and learning. And based on this, I think that at the moment, artificial intelligence, it's not a threat for coaches. It's a friend for coaches. It will support our work, but it won't be able to do exactly what humans do. And the other thing, and again, I'm not proficient in all the artificial intelligence research. So if you have different sources or different knowledge than I have, please compliment me with it. But based on what I know at the moment, there is no artificial intelligence which would be able to deal with teams and team dynamics and stimulate teamwork. And we know that team coaching is getting more and more popular, not just because it's a fashion, but because a lot of work is done by teams. And there are not so many high-performing teams outside in the real world. And coaches are very helpful in creating the necessary psychological safety and the necessary psychological dynamics in teams, where teams avoid groupthink, where teams are able to create the atmosphere to challenge each other's assumptions and biases, because that leads to creative thinking, to thinking outside of the box, and to very innovative ideas. And at the moment, I'm not aware that a computer or software or any other AI would be able to do that.
Yes, Leda, carry on. Yeah, I quite agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. So will you have other questions, Ram, or how would you like me to do? Because you said that you will have different questions, and I'm happy to take them.
Yeah. And what I would do is, somebody has said, Julia has said she would really appreciate more info on the neuroscience of humor, but you can send that later and we can pass it on. But please go with whatever you have in mind at this time. And as you speak, if people have questions on that, they can always ask you. Go with what you want.
Yeah, so please pose the questions, because that will be very helpful. I do speak when I get a lot of questions, so you will be helpful. And I will look into my Kindle library. I just have too many books and I couldn't find that one promptly. Yeah, I see. It's Richard Wiseman. I don't remember. Sorry for that. I will really promise to. I promise to send it to you. But getting back to again to coaching, you mentioned, Ram, that I have traveled quite a lot of places in the world, and I have been very much into the ICF research, and into the trends, what is happening globally nowadays with coaching. And recently, we did have a global leadership forum in Warsaw where we invited all the chapter leaders from the ICF, and we had a futurist speaker who had a few intriguing thoughts for us coaches. And first of all, he kicked out talking about how technology is really changing and shaping the world. And we all used to say that actually the world is changing really fast, and it has a huge speed. But that's partly true only, because the other side of the reality is that yes, technology is changing, but human thinking and human mindset is not adapting that fast as technology changes. And he said also that there is so much information outside in the world that despite of all your efforts to learn and to catch up with everything, you wake up every day a little bit more stupid than you were the day before. And that caught me thinking that on one hand, he's really true, because he's really right, because we are just completely unable to deal with all the information what we get. And we are also unable to update actually our thinking so quickly. And if you look into a lot of research done by McKinsey or done by Creative Center of Leadership, what we find that the same challenges are challenges for many, many years, and they are all related to the human factor. And these challenges, like how do we enhance managerial effectiveness, how we motivate and inspire our people, how we lead teams, how we keep our people creative, and how we keep them to think and come up with innovative ideas. And I think if it would be so easy to change the human mindset, we would not have these challenges for many years. So my take and my experience on coaching is that coaching at the moment is very much needed. And just, you know, remember the definition of coaching by the ICF. It says that coaching is a professional partnership and a thought-provoking process. So it is what is needed for the future is to be able to provoke our assumptions, our ability to think differently and to innovate. And the other thing mentioned by the same professor, he's from the Stockholm Business School, and his surname is Nordstrom. So he said that actually, you know, even innovation and even ideas are not exactly the response for the future, because what is happening in a digitized world, when you have an idea, that idea gives you a very temporary monopoly. And very soon, that idea will be digitized, that idea will be copied, and other companies most probably will be able to actually produce, sell your idea much cheaper and much faster. So you will be challenged continuously to come up with newer and newer ideas and to create for yourself temporary monopolies. And he said that the only thing which cannot be digitized is tacit knowledge. Tacit knowledge is the silent knowledge which comes from human wisdom and which comes from the human experience. But the problem with the tacit knowledge is that we are often not aware of what kind of tacit knowledge we have, what kind of wisdom, what kind of experience we have, and how do we actually contribute to the benefits of our organization with our tacit knowledge. And for that, proximity is needed. So face-to-face interaction or a coaching type relationship where someone is really making you to think, to become aware of what you have in your tacit knowledge toolbox. And at the moment, as I mentioned, that cannot be digitized. And I see that this is really vital in coaching, that we create that awareness and we help people to actually unleash their potential. And in my opinion, this is really unleashing the potential. It's not about becoming someone else who you are not, but becoming aware of who you are and being able to actually update your current version of who you are. And I participated last year in a huge conference organized by Human Capital Institute. And companies like Adobe and other big companies participated, and they talked about their current challenges and about what is needed to reform the performance management system. And they came up with ideas we know already. It's the continuous development, the continuous coaching in the moment of people. It's not setting goals in the beginning of the year and then reviewing them in the middle of the year and at the end of the year and giving feedback. But what really leads to development and to success is the ongoing giving feedback and coaching people and stretching people to think and come up with new ideas and new connections. So let me just take a moment to look into the chat box if there are any questions for me. No questions at the moment.
No, there are several actually. Somebody wanted to know about Shanaz, about coaching in the fourth industrial revolution, which I guess she means the new information age, whatever. And somebody had asked about team coaching. How could we maximize our capacity in coaches to grow in delivering high impact team coaching? Someone has asked, how does artificial intelligence emulate coaching presence? So there are a few questions. I mean, in case you would like to take them now or later.
Yes, let me take them now. Yeah. So, what was the first question? Remind me, please.
Yeah, the first one, as I see it here, is about from Shanaz. It's about team coaching. What could you say about how to maximize our capacity as coaches to grow in delivering high impact team coaching?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And first of all, ICF now is thinking to come up to research more team coaching, and most probably to come up with competencies and with the criteria of what is needed for team coaching. Because what we are learning at the moment, that working with teams is not the same than working with the individuals, because you meet the team dynamics and you have to keep in mind the whole system. And this is one of the trends we are noticing for the future, that we have to be more systemic in our thinking when we coach, and to keep in mind not just the organizational system, but even the wider system, what needs to happen there. And that will be, and looking to that will help us to avoid the blind spots of the coaching and making coaching much more efficient in the world. And that, and I don't have very specific answers to how to maximize our capacity, than being really aware of how the system is impacted and what is happening in the full system. And when you work with the team, knowing that the team is not your only one client, but you have a lot of other clients who are actually not in that room. I remember the ICF conference, the Conference of Science in London, and we invited Professor Hawkins from Oxford University, who, can you hear me? Because my internet is weak a little bit.
Yeah, it was breaking a bit, but now it's okay. Yeah.
Okay, and he spoke about team coaching, and he said that what he does, he always has an empty chair in the room with the team, because that empty chair represents the other stakeholders who are not present at the moment. And that other stakeholders can be, future generations, can be shareholders of the company, can be the customers of the company. And that is something we need to keep in mind when we work with the teams. And also that leads me into the second question, which was asked about the fourth industrial revolution. And again, let me not to go very far from the research and what's happening in the world. Very recently, there was the World Economic Forum in Davos in Switzerland, which is held every year and which brings together the biggest leaders from the world, and they talk about, what is needed to be done in the world, where is the world going. And actually, the trend for this year was about the responsible leadership. And they talked about exactly the same, that it's not enough to just mind, your own business and to think about the prosperity of your own organization, but you must be aware of the impact of it. Because if we are not, then we create new problems. The solutions of today are the problems of yesterday. And how can leaders be more mindful about that impact? And again, I think coaching will be very useful for these leaders, because I'm sure you all experience that you can't just thinking alone and just pondering ideas, you can't see all the perspectives. And coaches are those who can help to see the various perspectives, to challenge our current mindset, and also to help leadership teams to be more effective, because other research done again by Creative Center of Creative Leadership shows that only 18% of senior leadership teams are very pleased with their collaboration and cooperation. And coaches will be needed to help them to actually have a different conversation. Getting back to the responsible leadership, recently we lost one of the legends of coaching, John Sir Whitmore, who actually said that the ultimate goal of coaching is really to increase self-responsibility. And in a world where responsible and ethical leadership is needed, coaching will be one of the best tools to lead them there. I don't say that coaching is a panacea and is the only one tool, but at the moment, I think that coaching is a very important tool to help people to think at higher levels, to think at higher levels, meaning that dealing much better with the complexity. Because complexity means that you don't have best practices. You cannot think about past solutions which will solve the future problems. Complexity means, and solving complex problems means that you need to come up with solutions which were not yet tried out by anyone. And for doing that, you need to have a different way of thinking and be able to prognose, to look into the future and to look into different scenarios. But with the same mind, with the same framework we have at the moment, we might not be able to notice all the possibilities of the future. So we might create a future which is just a copy of the present or of the past. So let me stop again and look into
Leda, just one
Yes.
follow-up on this. I mean, just an observation based on what you said about team coaching. One of the experience that I have in India is many of the companies, the larger companies, are moving to team coaching. This is absolutely true because they find that the benefit that they get for individuals, and especially when they come back to work in the same environment, even if they have been transformed by coaching, is somewhat transient unless the teams also work along with that. So, I mean, whatever name that we want to give it, more often today it is called a systemic coaching. There's a lot of work that's been done, Peter Senge and others. But one of the things that I find is the process called appreciative inquiry, and the coaching which is derived from there called appreciative coaching. I found it extremely useful in teamwork. And hopefully tomorrow, Dr. Nina Verma, who's going to talk about appreciative inquiry and appreciative coaching, we could ask her to cover that. I just wanted to bring that in relevance to what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. And you reminded me something which, again, might be important, that the ICF Global Board actually hired a team coach. And it was a very interesting and good learning for us. And the main insight was that what a team coach could do is to notice where we don't go deeper into the conversations and challenge us. And we walked out with a very useful and beneficial thought that when you become uncomfortable with the conversation, that is the stage where you need to stay. Because in those conversations which are not, which give you tension, which give you some discomfort, they might be the most creative conversations, because you move out of your, we call it comfort zone, but actually it's not a comfort zone. It's rather a safety zone, and it's rather, our usual way of functioning. But when we move into this discomfort, we need a lot of trust with each other, and we need to stay in that conversation, because in that moment we'll be more able to avoid the biases and to create something new. And I think that's something which is one of the main impacts of a team coach, to notice and keep the team in those moments and help the team to go deeper and to go into more thought-provoking conversations. And that's vulnerable sometimes, because we don't know where we go, where we are going with it. And that's the complexity. You don't know where are the boundaries of safety. Yes. There was another question about artificial intelligence and presence. Yes,
that's right.
If
I
remember it.
Yeah. It was on artificial intelligence as applied to presence. Yeah.
I think it's an intriguing question, and I would love to know more about what did you have in your mind when you asked it.
1 minute. Let me try and get, it was Gayatri. Just a second. Let me unmute her. Yeah. Gayatri, would you like to ask your question?
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, Leda. Yeah, I'm
Hello.
just wondering, thinking aloud also, just wondering as to, how does AI really emulate coaching presence? Because, from what I understood from the various conferences we attended over the week, it's far deeper, in terms of active listening, in terms of listening to the background noises, for example, in some cases, or even knowing what's happening in terms of, the expression on the face and stuff of this kind. So any experience or any knowledge on how AI, or any experience anybody has had in terms of, how AI has been able to emulate coaching presence?
Yeah, thank you very much for the wonderful question. Again, I don't know everything about AI, but I know from my coaching experience, and certainly from my own journey towards the MCC, that coaching presence and active listening is much more than listening to the stories and to the thinking of the client, but it's also the ability to scan what is happening in the coach. How is the coach impacted by the client? What are the feelings? What are the sensations we are picking up? Because again, as we know from research, we have 3 brains. We have the gut brain, the heart brain, and the mind brain. And a lot of things are picked up not by the mind, but by our skin, by our neurons in our stomach. And as I know, artificial intelligence at the moment is trying to actually replicate the human brain, the human mind, and not the human heart and the human gut. But forgive me, I'm not an IT specialist, so I don't know everything, and I don't want to be misleading here. However, I had just yesterday a very interesting conversation with my teenager son, who knows much more about IT than me. And he said that at the moment, there is some possibility that the mind can be coded with ones and zeros, like in IT. And if that is possible, that we are thinking in this binary way, like 1 and 0, then it will be possible to replicate the human brain and to create a soft or an AI, which is actually the copy of the human brain. However, his question was, if this is true, then who we are? Who is the I? Who is actually, you know,
absolutely, and that's what it is, you know, going beyond the mind, which is what, you know, I would think that a master coach achieves. And I don't know how AI would ever emulate going beyond the mind, you know.
Honestly,
anyway, thanks for your response on that.
At the moment, I'm not afraid of AI, that it's a competitor for us human coaches. Thank you. It's a lovely question.
Yeah, in a sense that leads to, it's about whether AI is really going to be at any point in time emote. I think that's a key question. When we talk about presence, there's a lot of presence, even if it's not that well explained in the ICF competencies. It's about the emotional connect between people, the energetic connection between people. Is that ever going to happen in AI? The answer is probably. I don't know when. Because there are a lot of psychologists today say even animals cannot emote, which is not true. I do believe that our dogs can. So I guess at some point in time, maybe machines can too. I don't know. But let's see when it happens.
I think AI could be useful in making coaching more scalable, you know, and
very true, very true.
And also to support our clients, because I'm sure that we all have that experience that we have as clients wonderful coaching sessions, and we forget many things to implement after the coaching. And having a platform, having, you know, a system which help you to stay on that incremental journey and change your habits bit by bit with little nudges, that is extremely helpful. And we do have research about the power of nudges, which is again, it is coming from Google, that with little daily nudges, you can actually achieve huge changes. And also AI and different platforms implemented by organizations help the coaching to be more systemic and to have a systemic view. And also, I think at the end, maybe we will be able to measure the return on investment, or to measure better the return on expectations with that.
Yeah, that addresses one of the questions that I think Mani had asked, or it's not a question, more a statement, about making coaching available universally. You touched upon that over a period of time using AI, and yes, that is true. The other question, in parallel, perhaps you can talk about a little bit more, Leda, with your knowledge, is forget about AI in that sense, but even something like, for instance, virtual communication, like what we are having today. I find in India, people are far more accepting of virtual coaching than the US. Whenever I had to sort of put up a case for coaching somebody in the US, they want to know, are you based in the Bay Area? Are you based in New York? And then let us talk about it. So what's really happening here? Some of the most technologically advanced countries have pretty not so technologically advanced attitude in terms of acceptance. So would you like to talk about that?
I can have just one theory here based on, because it was as the PricewaterhouseCoopers and ICF research. So based on that research, we looked into the different modalities, how coaching is delivered. And we know that in the US, a lot of coaches is delivered not face-to-face, but via phone. And that's a habit. So I think that, you know, phone calls and using technology, especially without any images, any video, it doesn't, there is not such a big difference. And that might be, in my opinion, one of the reasons that US is not still embracing so much the technology and virtual coaching. On the other hand, we do see that in Asia, virtual coaching is more popular than in some of other parts of the world. And we also know that text message coaching is most popular in Asia and not in other countries. And countries like Latin America, they still like face-to-face coaching. They enjoy more the personal conversation and communication. And also countries like Eastern Europe are more prone to face-to-face coaching. So that would be my theory, that maybe, it's when you look into what's the difference between phone and using Skype, because many coaches use Skype or Zoom without video. So they still use the audio instead of having the image. And, why replace the phone calls, which might be cheap in the States, with something that doesn't give a lot of other benefits. And also, I think based on my knowledge, and again, I don't have much research about that, but based on my knowledge, some of the nuanced economies have much better internet than the Western countries. And I live in Lithuania, and Lithuania is on the top of the list, and we have a very fast internet. And the internet I'm having now in Hungary is actually too slow for me, far too slow. And also the internet I'm experiencing in many parts of the world, just too slow. And I think that new economies are embracing far better, the technologies than the old economies.
Leda, there's a question here which several people seem to be interested in. Beyond AI, what else do you see as a future trends in coaching? Which niche is growing the fastest? What is the future for niches?
Okay, you're cutting off. Okay, I couldn't hear the question, Ram, because you were
okay. I'll repeat that.
Can you repeat it, please?
Beyond AI, what else do you see as future trends in coaching? Which niche is growing the fastest, and what are the future for niches?
Thank you so much. So yes, we talked about a lot about AI because Ram kicked off this conversation, but we do see trends that companies are investing more and more in coaching and establishing a coaching culture. Actually, we do every year with Human Capital Institute research, and we look into the approach of many companies into coaching and their investment, and we see that they are increasing their budgets for expanding the scope of internal coaching and coaching style or approach applied by managers and leaders. And we also see that companies who have a strong coaching culture, they actually outperform their peers in the industry in employee engagement and also financially. And those companies who can say that have a strong coaching culture, and they are just, by the way, just 33% of the respondents of the survey, they have at least 3 modalities of coaching. So that means that they work with external coaches, they have internal coaching, and their managers and leaders also use coaching in their daily work. Coaching is delivered not just for the senior executives, but actually is available for anyone in the company. Coaching is a merit badge, so it's not for fixing people who are not delivering good results. And also coaching is a strategic imperative for the companies. So coaching is budgeted, and coaching is used to help the companies to achieve their strategic goals. And it is not just a nice to have. And this is a big trend, what we see. And we have started our first research with Human Capital Institute in 2014. So during the 3 years, we had just an increasing trend, seeing that companies want to bring coaching closer to their employees. Also, another trend is the training, that internal coaches and managers and leaders are trained more rigorously. Often the minimum training is between 30 and 60 hours, but we see from the PwC research also indicators that many managers have around 200 hours of coaching training. What else in organizations? Yes, so also from the research with Human Capital Institute and PricewaterhouseCoopers, we see that organizations are looking in different ways to actually not just to train the internal coaches and managers, but to sustain and increase their knowledge and to help them to develop continuously. So they create centers of coaching excellence, they provide mentor coaching, they provide supervision, and it is an ongoing trend to see managers and internal coaches with credentials, with ICF credentials. So credentialing is the other trend that it's becoming very important. There is nowadays on the LinkedIn and on the Facebook a saying which we got, I think, from one of the Latin American chapters, that you would not entrust your car for any mechanic. So why would you actually give your people to be coached by any kind of coach? And that is a new slogan for credentialed coaches, are the trusted coaches, and they are the professional coaches. So this is something we see also based on the research. About future niches, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that, because we are scanning the horizon, and at the moment we see that 62% of the coaches are working in the business world. So they do the leadership coaching, the executive coaching, the organizational coaching. We still see that about 49% of coaching is life, vision, and enhancement coaching. But something what, might come up in the future is that ICF Foundation is very strongly supporting the UN initiatives until 2030. And this year and the next year, the trend will be education. So we will look very much into how can we actually bring closer education to the society using coaching. So maybe around, the some kind of pro bono initiatives around society thriving, we will have more kind of coaching initiatives, because that's our vision, is having a thriving society, so coaching being a part of a thriving society, and talking about the responsible leadership, and we leading the field in coaching and in, I hope, in responsible leadership. I think that we might have niches around that, of how can we really impact not just one team, not just one coachee, but how could we impact all together, all coaches in the world, the society, at a very exponential speed and level.
Thanks, Leda. There are 3 questions here, in depending upon your time, you can try and answer them.
Yes.
One is about spirituality. Is there a deeper movement towards spirituality in the evolution of coaching? That is one. The second is about something called bite-sized learning. Whether do you see any trend towards bite-sized coaching, smaller duration but more frequent? And lastly, what's the difference between ICF and university coach credentialing?
Yes, thank you very much. I will start with the second question, and then I will come back also to the first one. Yes, we do see the bite-sized coaching. It's the so-called flash coaching or spot coaching, and they are very often delivered by leaders and internal coaches in companies, when 5 minutes, 10 minutes are used in a coaching approach. And this is also what I mentioned, what came up on in the Human Capital Institute conference, that really instead of booking time for a conversation, you can have this ongoing on-the-spot feedback. And instead of telling or advising, you can have immediately a question and support the employees in their development. So that incremental learning and incremental coaching is definitely a big trend in the companies. And we know that it's really possible to have a very meaningful conversation in 5 and 10 minutes. And it's much more useful than sharing our own knowledge and advice in 10 minutes. Again, the easy question for me was the difference between ICF credential and university credential. Well, the ICF credential is an industry credential, which means that anyone from any training, not just ICF accredited training, can come and be tested by the ICF and have an ICF credential. I know that many universities are actually looking into possibilities to partner with ICF and gain ICF accreditation for their own programs. And we are actually piloting with, okay, how do I, it's an acronym, is the G, it's the Graduate School of, sorry for that. The GSAEC, it's an organization who works with leaders and with university type programs, and we are actually piloting with them a project of how can ICF assessment or ICF accreditation be useful for them. So at the moment, we know that ICF credentialing and accreditation is very very popular and accepted. And also, what you need to know that we are looking into ISO accreditation for our PCC process, and actually we have got already advice from the ISO people of how we can improve it, and we are working for that, and in the future, very soon, I hope we'll have the accreditation. Yes, thank you so much. Graduate School Alliance for Education and Coaching, thank you so much for that. Sometimes the mind is not working, you see. AI would be most probably better in this, searching for the acronyms. And the last one is the spirituality. I think it's a very interesting question, and I will give you just my own personal take on this, because in the ICF we haven't had many conversations, so please treat this answer just not from a global board member or past president, but from Leda. And often I follow the conversations in the Mind and Life Institute between Dalai Lama and world-renowned researchers. And what I see and pay attention to, that actually they are talking about the same things, using a different language and taking a different perspective. And what Dalai Lama does often, in my opinion, he is ongoingly challenging himself and challenging the scientists. Isn't that a coaching approach, what he is using? And for me, there is a huge relationship between coaching and spirituality, but spirituality might be defined by different people in the world differently. So I don't know what is exactly your definition, but based on how I define it, spirituality as a higher purpose of living and believing in something higher than we are, coaching might be a way of actually challenging our mindset, opening our minds, and being more open and aware of what is this whole life and world about. And science may be the way to prove, to give the language and the numbers and the figures and the explanation for our rational mind. But with our other part, with our heart, with our gut, with our non-rational mind, I think we often know much faster what is the truth, and then science helps us to explain it. My daughter asked me one day, what makes me a better and better person daily? And I think it's coaching, because coaching, helps us to think, how can we be better human beings? How can we be, better partners, better parents, better leaders? How can we unleash our own potential and the potential of others? Isn't this all about spirituality? And we are all connected, and coaching is about connection.
Yeah. Leda, there's one more question, and after that, you can summarize any other aspects of the PwC, human capital, ICF kind of new things that came up. It's about, Terence had asked about how big is retirement coaching within the coaching world? And then you can go on to the PwC research.
You have very interesting questions. Let me again think about the acronym. The acronym, I think it's the American Association of Retired People, AARP. And we have had several conversations with them. And actually, they are using a coaching approach to help retired people to discover a second purpose for themselves, a new purpose after retirement. And as I know, they have also a wonderful coaching type questionnaire on their website, which helps people to answer these relevant questions. I personally might think that that could be a new niche in the future to help retired people. Because longevity, as we know, it's a blessing, but also it's a challenge for the governments, for the people themselves. And I have met personally a few coaches lately who are thinking about supporting the retired people. And again, that's not an official view, but that's just my personal experience. And I think that I would really encourage you to look into that. And, I would really encourage you to do your own research if you start doing retirement coaching, and ask those people, how useful is that for them? You can track what they can do after getting coaching, how they find their own purpose, and how coaching is helpful for them. So that would be a very useful research for coaches.
Yeah.
And there was something again about the PwC. So can you repeat that question? What aspects?
Yeah.
Because that's a huge research. It's 150 pages.
I know. I'll just end those people who would like to. The password is Hungary Leda. First one was Hungary. Second is Leda. So I finished with that. You can take the rest of the time, and we'll close with it. Somebody asked about what else came up for you very quickly. If you can highlight any other things that you haven't covered as part of the Human Capital PwC ICF research.
So I have presented many times on that topic, and actually, as I said, it's 155 pages. It's a very, very huge research. So I would really encourage you to download it from the ICF. You can download for free the executive summary, which is about 20 pages, and it gives you also a good data. And then you can purchase the whole 155 pages. But a few things which captured my attention, that actually coaching experience and the years of coaching experience are proportionally related to the length of coaching engagement, to the number of clients a coach has, to actually the income of the client, which I can interpret in two ways. One is that don't give up. The more experience you gain, actually, the better your future will become. Secondly, my interpretation is that you can come from any other profession. You can have psychology as a background, neuroscience, or leadership as the background. If you change your profession and you become a coach, you're a beginner coach. And you need to gain experience in coaching. Your previous experience is really good, is really helpful, but it will not help you immediately to become a better coach. Experience, practice in the coaching competencies, it is very much needed, and that will make you a better coach, and that will gain you more coaching clients and longer coaching engagements and more income.
Leda, we are on top of the hour, but if you can answer a question, Shanaz has a last question. She would love to hear more about your own MCC journey. Any wisdom that you can offer?
Yeah. I think we started out with confusion and chaos. I think we can't be just positive, and we can't have, just great experiences, but all the frustrations, all the mistakes, so-called failures in quotation marks, the confusion, the struggles we have, they are needed for us to know ourselves much better and to know the human beings much better. I think that was, for me, a huge part of my MCC. It's, learning about myself a lot. Secondly, I have really recorded a lot of my sessions. I did about 60 recordings and listened back to them just to learn about what I'm doing, what I'm noticing in what the client says, what I'm picking up with, from the story, what I'm picking up with my sensations and with my feelings. And that helped me to be a better coach. And of course, I had ongoing supervision, I had ongoing mentoring. But it's a worthwhile journey. And it's not for the 3 letters to become a master certified coach, but it's really to integrate coaching into your own style, into your own value system. And it's, not to make coaching not about your own performance and do the coaching, but it's rather integrate coaching into who you are. And that was my journey. It's making coaching a part of my own being and thinking. And that doesn't mean that I'm, in the coaching mindset all the time. But I certainly became a different person during that journey.
Brilliant, Leda. I just want to share something that you shared with me and which became very important for me, and I communicate to anybody who's training with us on MCC. You said 60 now. Actually, what you told me was that you made almost about 100 conversations, recordings, and you went through them and you selected, and then you went through again, and how you learned from that. I think that process from PCC to MCC is going to be essential for anybody. And I totally agree with you. It's not about a label. It's about the awareness that we create within ourselves. Thank you very, very much, Leda. It's wonderful having you here with us. And we really hope to fulfill your dream that you will come to India, and we'll make that happen. I promise you that. And thank you. And thank you for all of you for attending. And there is one more session tomorrow. Those of you who would like to attend the appreciative and coaching session by Dr. Nina Verma at the same time, CCUs will be awarded. Bye. Thanks. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. And just enjoy the rest of the coaching week, and see you in India, hopefully.
No, inshallah, but you'll happen. Okay. Bye. See you.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.
Bye.